Welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name is Alexander Hardy. Today is Monday, July 6th, in the year of Janet Jackson 2020. We are in another week of coronavirus wreaking havoc on the world, and another day without a Janet Jackson album. But in the meantime, we are here, gathered here to share some mental health resources and to take a moment to remember to choose joy and just to, I would like to, share some things that are helping me get through the week, some things that are bringing me joy. As always, I'll be sharing some adventures in my Alex Gotta Eat journey because of that's how we live out here. I have some big news to share, which most of you probably seen, but I just want to dive into that a bit more. And I have a very special guest who you will be hearing meeting very, very, very soon. In the meantime, I wanted to start off with sharing a few things that bring me joy, that are bringing me joy in the past week. One of my a person in my community, Raven, Sensei Raven, hosts the Healing Space podcast, and he is on a recent episode. I just posted in the comments, episode 96 of season 3. He stepped aside for a Black Trans Lives Matter episode, and allowed Mrs. Nia Clark, Amir Neal, and Andy Jean to take over the podcast for a lovely conversation just around the trans narrative in the midst of this Black Lives Matter conversation. And they brought up some very amazing points, and just had a really heart-to-heart conversation as friends and sisters, and bring up a lot of things around self-care and healing, and just their lived experiences that we may not necessarily consider, or that are definitely not being considered and spoken to in this greater Black Lives Matter conversation. So shout out to the Healing, the Love Movement podcast, Black Trans Lives Matter episode. I just posted it in the comments there, and it will also, everything that you see here will be shared in the show notes on thealexanderhardy.com tomorrow. The second thing bringing me joy is an episode of the Miss Vixen podcast by Queen of the Tea with Queen in the Day podcast. She also has the Miss Vixen podcast, an event series, and she recently collaborated with the Hustle and Heal collective based in the Bronx with Bianca Shaw, Angelica De La Cruz. We recently were invited to an event they had called Affirming Work-Life Balance. And basically, just as it sounds, to affirm and declare and share resources and tools and techniques for ways that we can banish, as I said, banish white supremacist work structures. The idea of rigor and overproductivity in lieu of wellness that we bring into our homes that we have, I guess, as people who are now working from home. And so they had a really, really good panel. It was a great conversation that they put together around ways to thrive, not just collectively, but like as you transition into people who are able to go out into the world and live your lives and do what you need to do, to people who are quarantined, can't go to cafes, can't do, your rivalry meetups, can't do your co-working, can't connect with your coworkers, even the ones you hate. They were still a reprieve from whatever's going on at home. And so they shared some great resources, and I've also shared that here in the comments of this chat as well. I want to make sure it's there. You can see it. If you're watching, feel free to let me know how your self-care is at the moment on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to postpone my self-care check-in as I normally would at the top of the show for when I talk to my lovely guest, Tanya Denise Fields, in a moment here. Let's see. Who else? The third thing that's bringing me joy, this one is kind of a full circle moment for me. I first connected with Dr. Amani many years ago in the ages of soul bounce on Janet Jackson Internet when I was writing for, I think on MySpace or somewhere, or maybe I had just gotten my first website at thecolorboard.com. And I was, I don't remember what I'd written. I think I'd responded to a, hey, Ayana. So, okay, Ayana, this is so 4, Evelyn's at a 6. She aims to laugh a lot. Thanks for sharing. Like I said, feel free to share your self-care check-in and what's going well for you in terms of self-care right now. So I first connected with Amani when she was working with Kimberly Hines from soulbounce.com, which is a music website that still stands to this day. Wonderful soul music website, a pioneer in the blogging game. And they actually gave me my first writing opportunity as editors, Amani and Kimberly, to just step out and just, I guess, share my whatever with the world. 1 to 10. 1 being the worst, 10 being the self-care scale is 1 to 10 dash asked. And again, that could be 0, that could be negative 5,000, that could be 50,000, that could be 20 million, whatever, wherever the case may be. Whatever that scale means to you. I'm going to share mine in a moment. So we got a 4, we have a 6 so far. And so basically Amani has come a long way. She's recently released a podcast called Amani State of Mind. And she has used her platform to really break down some of the important parts of mental wellness that terms we hear about, but in really easy to understand ways. The first episode is called Don't Panic. And what I love about this is that she breaks down the ways that something that we're all probably experiencing. Okay, so we got a 3.6, which is, hey, it's better than 0, better than negative 15,000. It focuses on the ways that traumatic stress appears in our lives right now, and how it's something that's so insidious that all of us who are living in a pandemic, in a recession, amid civil unrest, with white terribleness raining from the sky as always, still no Janet Jackson album, still Flo Rida out here in the world releasing music, and just like no end in sight. And so how do you cope? And so what she's done is broken down how traumatic stress, something that can be a part of PTSD and CPTSD and other brain injuries and other mental emotional challenges, but how those may show up in our daily lives now as people who are, maybe you're homeschooling now, maybe you are unemployed, maybe you are underemployed, maybe you lost the reprieve that school or work provided, and you're now in the house with the person who is stealing your joy. And so she just shows many of the ways that manifests. And so I'm going to share a link to that episode, episode 1. She has 2 episodes so far, and she has done a really good job of just making these topics really easy to understand. So I'll just share that. She's on the iHeartRadio platform. And so shout out to Amani. The 4th thing bringing me joy this week is I May Destroy You, which is Michaela Cole of Chewing Gum fame. Her new HBO series. Let me know in the chat if you have watched that, or if you are hip to that, or plan to watch it. Or okay, so we got a 3 as well. Hopefully by the end of the week we can get us up above 5. Get this thing going. Dash raised a good point that she just needs a hug, and it's tough because she lives alone, which is actually something that I'll come back to that. Yes, thank you for saying that, Dash, and sharing that. I know that isolation is something that many people struggle with right now. Episode 2 of Amani State of Mind focuses on addiction, and if some of the behaviors that we may have picked up in our coping during this time, could there be a problem? Are you drinking a little bit more than you were? Are you smoking more than you were? Are you eating more, shopping more, whatever more? And the differences between healthy indulgence and like when it becomes something to worry about. So I'm not calling names or anything, and I'm not pointing any fingers, but I'm just saying that for those of you who may be experiencing changes in your coping routines or the ways that you used to do to get by, as huggers, as touchers, as feelers, I love to feed people as a love language. I can't do that as easily. So I just wanted to offer that episode 2 of her show. So I'm not calling names or anything. In terms of the Michaela Cole's show, I May Destroy You. It's on HBO. There's a lot going on. She's a wonderful storyteller. If you've seen Chewing Gum, I fell in love with her as quirky. She plays an awkward character really well, and she does a really good job at showing the not so pretty side of some real situations that happen around consent, and some things that she's been open about in her personal life. And she has some LGBTQ representation. There's a black homo contingency in the show. Okay, now we're back. Devil tried to take me out. Devil tried to take me out, but we are back. All right. So we had some technical difficulties. What I was sharing, the last thing before uh, the devil came in and swooped down on my internet connection, was first of all, for those who are just joining, this is Mental Health Monday with Alexander Hardy. My name is Alexander Hardy. And what I was sharing before we got cut off a second ago were 5 things that are bringing me joy at the moment. And before that, I had shared a conversation with um, uh, uh, on the Healing Space podcast with Nia Clark, Andy Jean, and Amira Neal. I shared that in the notes of the previous one. Also, a conversation on the Miss Vixen podcast around affirming work-life balance, a collaboration between the Tribe Co-Create Collaborative in the Bronx with Bianca Shaw, Angelica De La Cruz, and a couple other wonderful people. I'll share that as well, and I'll share that again. I also shared episode 1 of Amani's State of Mind podcast called Don't Panic, which broke down in a really easy to understand way the ways that traumatic stress manifests in our lives, especially in this raggedy moment in history that we're experiencing right now. And I also shared that I readily recommend Michaela Cole's I May Destroy You HBO series, which is streaming right now. Funny thing I noticed is that the BBC right now, or wherever they're streaming those on that side, are maybe 3 or 4 episodes ahead of the US right now. So on the BBC, I've seen maybe, other websites, I've seen maybe 8. I think there may be up to 8 episodes on the BBC, whereas I think maybe they're about to roll out the 5th or 6th this week on the show on the HBO. But it's a great show. Again, it has some heavy content, especially around drug use and sexual assault. So just as trigger warnings, the content can be really heavy. So I would say just protect yourself if just consuming that content. And the last thing I was going to share is that I found an apartment. I've been looking for a space in New York for years. I moved to New York in 2015, and it's been a journey since then to find peace, to find stability. Stability is who knows what stability means in this city. But after a journey and a half around the world, I was able to find a space that I feel comfortable in, being myself, being at ease, unpacking, working towards safety, working towards feeling comfortable in my body. For those of you who are just watching, feel free to let me know about your self-care situations and what you're doing to get some joy. How would you rate your self-care right now on a scale of 1 to 10? But an apartment, y'all, like I had not realized, and I was actually severely underestimating, or I was not giving full appreciation to the difficulty in functioning as a human being and working, creating, producing, showing up in the world, being productive, feeling whole, feeling beautiful, feeling powerful without stable housing or without a place to call your own, without a sanctuary. And so I've been able to do a lot of things since I've been here. I kind of shared offhandedly in a few episodes back in this broadcast that I dealt with homelessness for the majority of my time here in New York. And so to have lived in shelters and to have been bouncing around and to be a person who's trying to create and teach mental health first aid and show up in the world and just do things to bring joy to the world and connect people to therapy. And I did a lot of good things. I hosted a podcast, I hosted events, but trying to do all of that and have a good day when like you just have instability around, being able to lock the door and just small things, just like not feeling safe in my body. The idea that your safety, your stability, your housing is in someone else's terms. You're on someone else's lease. You're in someone else's space. You're subject to someone else's whims and attitudes and all types of things like that. So it just feels really good to finally be in a space and in a position to feel worthy enough of a space of my own and to be able to take the steps to chase it down and make it happen. So yeah, I shout out to growth. And I also, I'm thankful for peace and healing and a space to cook and to get better at empanadas and make less terrible rice and not shame my foremothers and make good meals and just heal and just work on being less spiritually ashy. So shout out to stability and shout out to, this first step. I'm not out of the mud yet, but it just feels really good to be able to like stand up on my own enough to like get this thing popping. So yeah, so I see she's joined. So I am going to welcome now, and I'll wrap some of these other things into this. Our special guest for tonight's Mental Health Monday is a food and reproductive justice warrior, y'all. Okay, she's someone who I've been following on Janet Jackson Internet for many moons, many years, and just seeing how far she's come in the urban farming space and the magic she's been able to create from way back when there was like a rat bastard that like fucked up her garden like years ago, and like to see how people like rallied around her and just like lifted her up, and to see what she's able to do with her Black Dory garden. She is also improving the lives of mamas and their children with the Black Dory Farm in New York, in Bronx, in New York, my former residence. She is out here helping people bring babies to the world in healthy environments and create peace and healing and joy. And I would love to bring her to you. She's also New York One's New Yorker of the Week. So without further ado, please welcome to this thing, Miss Tanya Denise Fields. Hey.
Hi.
Hey. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be joining you. I check in on the Mental Health Mondays every once in a while. I remember when you first got to New York and you were doing Alex Gotta Eat real heavy. And I remember one time, like a creep, I ran you down in Harlem. And I was like, wait, are you Alex Hardy? And you were like, okay, girl. But so I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super excited to hear that during this pandemic you have found some joy and some peace. I too know what it's like to be dealing with houselessness. I know what it's like to not have quality housing, even when I did have housing. A year and a half ago, I was able to finally move into an apartment that was somewhat appropriate for my family size. And it totally changes the game. And this is why I say all the time in the work that I'm doing, that if we're not talking about like quality housing and the ways in which it roots people, like literally roots us, or uproots us, if we don't have it, then we're really not having a conversation around, I think quality housing is a human right,
It is.
And this city is hella raggedy when it comes to making sure that folks have quality housing.
It feels like a fight, and it shouldn't. And
Right.
even using programs like, even with the vouchers, quote unquote, like, and that's supposed to be your ticket, like it's still it's still an uphill battle, and it's just the program. It's just
people don't know. They be acting like them vouchers, like niggas is in there just making it rain on poor people with vouchers, and you can just go around and spend them vouchers anywhere. Landlords do not want to rent to you if you have vouchers. They discriminate against you. If you want to move with a voucher, they make it so difficult. Excuse me. A lot of people end up back in the shelter system just to get another voucher to go. It's a whole racket. And, as the prophet James Baldwin said, it's very expensive to be poor.
It is.
And so, I always, when I'm doing facilitation work and speeches, I always quote that. And then I piggyback on it by saying that a lot of people are deeply invested in the poverty of folks. They're making money off of it. They're
absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you raised a good point about the quality housing, because even when I was like housed, like I wasn't in a shelter, there were so many no's with the quality housing, like to that sanctuary, where I was even told, like, we got a space, but like if you were in a shelter you would qualify, but since you're not in a shelter, I can't really help you. And it's just like, what the fuck is that? Like, hearing that from a fish. Anyway, so I appreciate your candor and just the way that you have been going hard to like improve lives for everyone, the community, mamas, their children, because your work reminds me of another work of a woman I love, Vivian Anderson. She has an organization called Every Black Girl, and she feels that in order for the Black girl to thrive, everyone around her needs to thrive, and to make that happen. And I just see that all up and through your work, and I love that. So the first way I fell in love with you was like seeing your work, as I said, like in these farming streets, like getting in the dirt, and ultimately under that for me is like a shared love language of feeding people. And so I want to know how you're doing, but the way I will frame that is by asking, what meal represents your mood right now? What meal would represent how you're feeling?
That's a good question. I think I am like braised short ribs right now. And I just made some of those the other day. I am like braised short ribs. Yeah. You know why? Short ribs are a delicious, marbled, beautiful cut of beef. And in order to get that like juicy, fall off the bones, finger licking, like wanna slap your mama is so good taste, you gotta cook them bitches for like 6 hours, 7 hours. I feel like that's where I am in my life. I feel like I've been doing this work for like 10 years on my own. I started my organization 10 years ago. And there were so many ups and downs and so many times where I was just like, I'm gonna give this shit up. I'm gonna go get a regular job. I'm gonna learn to bite my tongue so I don't kill Rebecca and just get my paycheck and go home, right? Because this shit is just too hard, right? Like the constant tap dancing and begging funders, the discrimination that you can't really prove it, but you know what's happening to you. You know that if you were a Karen, you'd be getting more funding. But because I am a unapologetically fat Black woman, you know what I'm saying, who doesn't bite her tongue and talks very candidly about the intersections of race and the ways in which white supremacy affects our work, even in the food system, I wasn't really getting funding like that. And so I was just like, I'm going to give this up. And for whatever reason, I was just like, hold on. Your time is coming. You're a braised short rib girl. Yes. And I feel like I am now like, you can smell it. You go to check it. The ribs, the meat is starting to fall apart. You got a good, thick gravy. I feel like that's the point that I'm in my life right now, right? I'm about ready to pop out the oven, put me on a plate with some polenta, a nice garnish, and it's about to be popping. I feel like right now, that's such a great question. I feel like I'm definitely, my dish is a braised short rib.
Okay. I'm gonna say I'm feeling like a long, low and slow cooked pot of collard greens. That's how I'm feeling right now. With a good neck bone.
Yes.
Like a smoked turkey neck bone, you know what I'm saying? Or 3, in the pot. Right. With just like a lot of really good juices and magic going on. That's how I'm feeling these days. Yeah, I think that's a good feeling. That's a good feeling. Yeah.
And collard greens, collard greens taste good. You gotta, what really sets a good pot of collard greens apart is that they were cooked with such love, right? Because if you cooking fresh collard greens, they got to be. That's why I don't cook them that often. You get fresh collard greens from me one time a year. That's it. It's the holidays.
It's a labor of love,
right? Because you got to cook. You got to clean them. You got to clean them well, okay?
Well,
you got to peel them off the stem, and listen, collard greens is an all-day thing.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And you can't half-ass it because it's very apparent. If you half-ass it, it's apparent.
I feel like a collard greens that's been simmering for like 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
And I just, now that I got this motherfucker last week, I can like pop that lid off and let all that magic out. That's how I'm feeling. So I like to start with like, how is your self-care right now at the moment? I know you're doing a lot out in the world. You're changing and impacting a lot of lives, feeding a lot of people. If you had to give it a number, how would you rate your self-care at the moment on a scale of 1 to 10? And anyone who's watching, feel free to do the same.
I feel like while I feel very juicy and very delicious in terms of my self-care, I'm probably at like a 4.98. Like I'm not halfway there. I'm not sleeping well. I'm working 12, 14 hours a day. Okay. I'm having a lot of anxiety around feeling like my kids are a little bit too independent right now, and really trying to balance like making sure that I'm present and taking care of folks in my home, and like taking care of this work out in the streets. And so right now work is overshadowing everything in my life. Like I barely have time to reply to people's text messages. And I know people think that I'm trying to shade them, and that's not it at all. I really just don't have the time. And by the time I get the time, it's like, all right, well, I got a half an hour before I can no longer keep my eyes open. I'm going to use that half an hour to speak some sentences to my children, tell them to go to bed, talk to my man for a hot minute, and then, you know, I knock out. There are times I fall asleep in my clothes, you know, like,
Hey.
yeah.
Okay. So good. So boundaries, you know, I like taking a nap laying down when you need to. I'm gonna say I'm at like I'm gonna be honest, like I haven't been at like a 8 in a while. I'm gonna say I'm like a 8.272 or something like that.
Okay.
Getting a space has done wonders. I've been sleeping good as shit. Like taking a shower, being able to lock the door. When I got in here, first of all, I don't think I'm done crying yet. I've been doing some good crying since I've been in here. But when I got the key, I stood and looked at the lock for like 10 minutes. Like, wow, I couldn't believe it. And I just felt like, I don't know what happened in that moment, but just being in here, it's just doing such wonders. Like, so that sleeping good, waking up, going back to sleep, which I haven't I don't know. I realized how much I have not been taking good care of my body and allowing myself freedom to just be. I think allowing myself to like ease into this space. You know, I've been asking people like, when does it feel like home? When does it feel like home? And I guess people tell me like, it takes a while, I guess.
It does. I've been in my apartment 18 months and it still don't really feel like home to me. I'm still like, there's shit I got to do. I got cans of paint for jobs that I was going to do 6-7 months ago. Like, It takes a minute. It takes a minute.
Okay. Thank you. That's common because I don't know what the hell. So yeah, I'm easing into the space, you know, finding order for everything. And so what could you be doing better or differently in terms of your self-care?
What could I be? I could be sleeping better. I could be eating better. I could be more intentional about taking space to just be present with my family. Not present, but also being like, and trying to answer messages and then talking to my operations manager. And like, I'm really not that present when I'm home. And so, you know, like my daughter asked me tonight, could we watch a movie? I said, y'all can certainly come in here and watch a movie. I'm going to be working. But if y'all want me to sit in the room with y'all while y'all watch a movie, I'm here for it. And so those are like the 3 things I'd like to be doing better right now.
Okay. I think for me, yes, giving myself grace to like ease into this moment. And I think one thing I want to do is get a bike. I think that would be one good way because I don't even want to pretend to like, I don't see myself ever liking to run. So I just need to be real with myself, like busting down music videos or something to get these hind parts together because it's time. Yeah. I saw a few months back you shared that you were recovering from the coronavirus situation. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling a lot better. I'm feeling very strong. I don't think I'm feeling as strong. And I told people this and I thought I feel like maybe I'm dragging it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm being dramatic. I don't feel like I'm as strong as I was before I had corona. But that could also be because like the world is a hot fucking mess right now. 2020 is on some bullshit. Like, so 2020 is raggedy as hell. And so I don't know if maybe that's also been affecting my how I feel physically. But I don't have the same stamina I had before. But mentally, I feel very strong and I feel very determined.
Okay. How did you know that you shared in the article that the New York Times wrote about you because you poppin', that you hesitated to go to the hospital because you were scared. Can you talk more about that?
Black people die at the hospital. We be going in for hangnails and wake up dead. Like they kill Black people at hospitals.
Like a motherfucker.
And you know, I felt like I knew, like when people were joking, like, you know, Black people got jokes. That's our way of, that's our coping mechanism. And I love us for it. And I was like, it's all jokes. It's all fun and jokes where y'all talking about, Black people are immune. If you ate at White Castle on Crenshaw, don't worry, you ain't gonna get the Rona, all those types of things. It was funny because Black people are funny.
Yeah.
But I also was like, it's not funny. And I don't want y'all to get comfortable because when America has a cold, Black people have the flu. And so when America has Corona, Black people die. And I knew that was going to happen. My 12 years of doing work in the community, having a greater understanding of how public health works and the intersections of race and gender and gender expression and sexuality, I knew that Black folks were going to be in for some shit. And I knew that if that was going to be amplified if you were a Black woman, if you were a Black queer person, if you were a Black queer woman, if you were a Black non-gender conforming person. Like, I knew that we were really going to have some serious issues. And then lo and behold, it's something I would have loved to have been wrong about, but I wasn't. And so when I woke up on like the 11th day of being sick, and all of a sudden it hurt to take a breath, I was like, it's funny in hindsight now because I'm like, bitch, you was being so dramatic. But I really laid in that bed and I was like, I'm gonna die. I got pneumonia. My lungs are filling up with liquid. It's over, girl. What are you gonna do? That's really how I was feeling. And my friend, he called me just to check on me. And he said, do you want to talk to my dad? And I'm like, why would I want to talk to your dad, Joe? And he was like, because he's a doctor. And I was like, but like a philosophy, right? He was like, no, like a medical doctor. And I was like, how have we been friends for 10 years? And I didn't know your father was a medical doctor. And so I talked to his dad. He kind of did like a telehealth thing for me. And then he was like, I'm really suggesting that you go to a hospital. I don't like the way this sounds for you. And so I got really nervous in that moment. And I said to myself, if I go in there and they do a chest x-ray and they find liquid, like fluid in my lung.
I think Tanya may have left. So I'm assuming she's gonna come back in a moment. Tanya was just sharing about her experience with Corona. Let me just reach out to her quickly and see. Just make sure she's okay. Okay. For those who are watching, I'm just going to share the link to Tanya was featured in the New York Times in an article about her recovery. And I'm just going to share that in the comments there. So I just shared that there. Okay, she's coming back on. But yeah, so I'll just, yeah, so people were agreeing with Tanya's comment around waking up dead. Tanya just mentioned that she's frozen, she's restarting in the moment. Just want to share a link to her website. Okay. So while I'm waiting for Tanya to come back, I want to share her feature from the, she was featured on New York One today for their New Yorker of the Week feature. So I want to share that while I'm waiting for her to come back in. Just one moment.
After years of being frustrated with the food options in her neighborhood, Tanya Denise Fields started farming.
And in the blossom, the fruit in the middle, that's your cucumber.
She grows tomatoes, squash, and berries, and raises hens to lay fresh eggs.
All right, Callie, how many eggs do we have so far?
It's not just for her and her 6 children, but also for many other families living in the Bronx, struggling with food insecurity.
I knew pretty quickly that the work that I wanted to do was enrich the lives of moms and their children.
Fields was inspired to make a difference after going through financial struggles of her own.
I was putting myself through school, was feeding myself and my children on food stamps.
After her daughter was diagnosed with asthma, Fields realized the importance of providing children with fresh food.
I knew the kind of effect that it had on brain development, temperament, and overall health.
She got to work, and through the Green Thumb program at the Parks Department, she turned a vacant lot into the Black Joy Farm.
I feel like I just helped to lay the foundation for something that we all wanted.
It's a 5,400 square foot space owned by the city, but completely run by Fields.
And so having a space like this where moms can come with their kids, social distance, take away a box of fresh produce, take home some eggs, allow their kids to run around and get out some of that pent-up energy from sheltering in place, I think it's really important.
Fields has mentored hundreds of women and given career opportunities for youth and women of color. The staff describes the farm as a place that lifts up the community.
And I think like having a space like this changes the narrative of what people think of the South Bronx.
And for Fields, improving the neighborhood that she loves is all she's ever hoped for.
We understand that the children are our future, and if they are our future, in order for us to be successful, they have to be well nourished.
For getting her hands dirty and encouraging her neighbors to live a healthier life, Tanya Denise Fields is our New Yorker of the Week. Pat Kernan, New York One.
Okay. I think she's still trying to log back on. So while Tanya, there we go. Boom.
We trying to run 2 air conditioners, a fan, a vacuum, in a damn pre-war building, and the breaker said, the breaker said,
said no ma'am, one too many things. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome back. Okay. So yes, we're sharing about, I just, before you came back, I shared your NY1 feature as New Yorker of the Week. So congrats to that.
Thank you.
You were sharing about, Black folks going to the hospital and dying, waking up dead.
Right.
And, the understandable fear around going to get tested. What has, we don't hear enough about, we hear the headlines and we don't hear what's happened after that. Like you said, you don't feel as strong as, you once felt, but I see you're still active and working. What has the journey back to now been like for you?
I hear a lot that I'm a high energy person. I started hearing that probably about 6 to 7 years ago. I never actually thought I was a high energy person. I used to be 300 pounds. I've always, in my adult life, I was always somewhere between like 270 and 310 pounds. And because of fat phobia, I never in my brain thought of my big body as a high energy body. And then what I started realizing from folks was like, some of the confrontation I would have in my life is because I would work myself to the bone and have this expectation that everybody else is going to work themselves to the bone too. And if they didn't, for me, that somehow like signaled it or was an indication that they weren't as committed or that they were lazy or whatever fucked up stuff that capitalism makes us believe about our value as it relates to productivity. I say all that to say that I still haven't gotten away from that. I may be more forgiving of other folks who can't work 14, 15, 16-hour days. I still work 14, 15, 16-hour days. While I was sick, I had a lot of guilt about not being able to work. There was the whole bitch don't die, but there was also like, there was that, right? But more than that, it was bitch get up and work, right? So for me, I was struggling with a lot of shame around, look, you went and got sick. You did something wrong. That's why you got corona. We as Black people, particularly Black women, Black femmes, Black queer folks, we get so used to taking care of other folks and muling and thinking it's our responsibility to always work, that when you can't do that, you constantly think about all the people that you're letting down.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to get up and make like instant oatmeal for my kids and it taking a half an hour. And at some point, my boyfriend came into the kitchen and was like, will you please go lay your ass down? Like, these kids don't need oatmeal as much as they need for you to get healthy.
Yeah.
Right. Like I was literally sitting at this stove, like on some big mama shit. Like, I remember back in the day, Big Mama
Yeah.
her fold up chair. That's what I was doing. I was at a fold up chair trying to make oatmeal. And everybody was like, girl, you're just doing too much. So for me, once I wasn't sick anymore, like once I started to have just a little bit of inkling that I was starting to feel better, immediately I was back to work. I was back to work. I was back to working out,
Same
like
routine.
Just same routine. I just fell right back into it.
What did that time teach you about yourself?
The thing about Corona is Corona will make you sit all the way down. She don't care. Like Corona does not play, right? So these, for the folks who asymptomatic, I mean, I guess that's why they running around here giving it to everybody else because they don't feel anything. But for those of us who got it and survived, we know that this is not just an exaggerated version of the flu. You have body aches like nobody's business. You are sweating while also being cold. You have muscle aches and spasms, and you literally like walking from my bedroom to the 20 feet to get to the bathroom. Sometimes I was like, maybe I should just ask this man to go get me some Depends and I can just pee in the bed because it was so difficult to get from one part of the house to the other part of the house. I had this unrelenting headache. My eyes hurt, right? Just to keep my eyes open. Like it was really probably the worst sickness I've felt in my life. And in that moment, I realized as much as we have this myth of the, Black woman is superhero, strong, independent Black woman. Yeah, I didn't feel strong. I didn't feel independent. I knew I needed help. I knew that I was very sick. And I had to really learn how to ask for that help, to ask people to go get groceries because nobody in my house could leave because I had the cooties. And I didn't want to send the other folks with the cooties, out in the street to give it to other people, and so asking people to go shopping for me, asking folks to like buy my kids dinner, asking my boyfriend to like make sure the kids did homework and that they actually wash their ass because kids are nasty. And if you don't tell them to take a shower or a bath, they won't. So, I had to learn that as much as I think I could just do this all by myself, I can't. And we need to have a village around us. That's the only way that we can sustain. That's what root us. That's what makes us feel like that. That too is a part of, like mental health is having a supportive village who can catch you. You know what I'm saying? When you're falling, whatever that falling looks like. And for me, that falling in that moment like Corona.
Yeah, because we're not supposed to be able to do, you're not supposed to be able to wear those 8 hats. Like though you can, I've had illnesses sit me down, and you raised such a good point. Like Corona, like other many illnesses, like will sit you all the way the fuck down, whether you want to already,
right,
or not. Even accept, that you have to. It's something that is worth sitting down for. So thank you for sharing that. I want to talk about your work with the Black Feminist Project and, of course, the Corona Food Relief Box. In your words, can you tell me about what you are doing with the Black Feminist Project, and I guess specifically why food justice is so important now more than ever?
So, the Black Feminist Project, formerly known as the Black Project, and then we changed our name a little over a year ago. The Black Feminist Project is about enriching the lives of and restoring agency, justice, joy, and health to Black women, girls, and non-men. And we often refer to them as MAGES, marginalized genders, right? And the children that they care for. And so there's a big emphasis on mother-led families. And so we really root ourselves in dynamic and engaging food and reproductive justice program that explores those intersections, right? Because intersectionality is the word of the day. Remember Pee-wee's Playhouse, they had the word of the day. Mm-hmm. And every time somebody said the word of the day, all the furniture started yelling. So for us, that word is intersection and intersectionality. So what does it look like when you have the intersections of race, class, gender, and respectability politics? That's a big one for me. And it was really important when we revamped our mission for me to put that in there, right? Like the Black feminism that we're on, the radical Black feminism that we're on is for baby mamas, right? It's for Black women who got a couple kids by a couple baby daddies. It's for those of us who have no desire to or don't know how to conjugate our verbs. It's for those of us who will try to de-escalate a situation, but if you push it too far, bitch, I will beat your ass. Like that is that is like that is who we are here for, right?
Yes.
And so for us, it was really important that the tenets of radical feminism or womanism are for those the folks who need it the most are those folks, and those are the folks who are the most shut out of these conversations. And I feel like we need to be having real conversations around the ways in which other Black women, based on their social stratification and classification, the education levels, will continue to marginalize the very women that they say that they want to amplify and uplift, but in fact use them sort of as punching bags to make themselves feel more validated. And so at some point I said I was going to actively reject that. And I'm not shading anyone that's got the alphabet behind their name. I'm not saying that education is not important. Every year I'm going back to get my master's. But, you know, for those of us who, you know, success looks like getting a job at the post office, right? For those of us, success looks like becoming the manager of the fast food restaurant that you worked at for a couple years, right? Like I am thinking about the ways in which we are making sure that those women have access to the language, can interrogate the language, and are at the forefront of the ways in which we utilize radical feminism, radical Black feminism or womanism to enrich our lives. And so that's really kind of what the Black Feminist Project looks like. That's sort of our mission. And the way in which we do it, because those are all really nice words, but like, bitch, what do you do, right? So what we do is that we have an urban farm that is a safe, green, radical growing space for families. We have our food program, the South Bronx Mobile Market and Buying Club, which is pivoted now to our Corona Relief Box. Every year we do a summit called the Not Just Talk Summit, where we have a different theme every year, but the centerpiece is always highlighting the work of Black women, girls, and mages. And then we do some peripheral programming. And then we launched our new program last year called Sis Do You, which is a dinner series that is an empowerment program for teen girls and young women and mages ages 14 to 30.
Okay. And so now with the Rona making everything fucking terrible and causing havoc on every level for everything that is important to us, how have you seen your work in that space, in the food justice space, shifting, or have you seen more people shifting towards, you know, taking their own control of their food, you know, their food consumption, or have you seen more people being, you know, more health minded, or what types of changes have you seen in that work?
So for us as an organization, as icky as it sounds, we're flourishing because all of the shit that I've been saying for 10 years that people were like, oh girl, you dragging it. Ain't gonna be no issue where people can't get food. Now I'm like, told you. Now I'm like, Cameron, you mad, doggy, right? Like, now this is what we were meant to do, right? This is what we've been sharpening our iron for the last 10 years. And so it was easy for me to step into this. Now it was like, now you see the value in making sure you just put money in the hands of Black women and mages without having to have them go through 50 different hoops to get it. Now we understand what it means to actually have easy access to food when you got to stand online outside of the grocery store like you online for bread somewhere in 1990 Soviet Union. Like now we're for us, we were kind of like, do you see the importance of the things that we've been talking about? And so we stepped in to stand in that gap in a way. And finally, I feel like they also get it too. So folks have really been supporting us. And so, you know, we've had to pivot a lot though, right? So now with the farm, we have more people wanting to volunteer at the farm now than when folks could actually move around. Now that we can't let more than 5 of y'all in here at one time.
A good problem to have.
We have to like shut the list down, because going to a park now, particularly in resilient communities that are full of working class and cash poor folks, you know, that is an exercise in patience and de-escalation, you know, and anxiety, right? Because we know that you lived in the Bronx. I don't have to tell you, you know, I love
special place.
Right. I love my borough, but we
special place.
It is a special place, and you got to be a special kind of person to get along here.
Yeah.
And so one of the things about it is that the Bronx is we could go on and on about the things that we lack in the Bronx. I always try to be rooted in an asset-based mind frame, but even being rooted in an asset-based mind frame cannot negate the very real deficits that exist here. And one of those deficits is a lack of green space that is appropriate for the density of the population here. And so, again, lots of nice words. What does that mean? That means there's too many niggas in one spot. And when that happens, folks be ready to fight. And in the age of Corona, what you're going to see are higher transmission rates.
Yeah.
So folks are hitting me up like, hey, can we come by the farm now? You got people in the community that see me in there. They're like, this is a beautiful green space. And it's just this lady and 2 other people. So suddenly they come in, they all scared. They looking all trepidatious. I'm like, what's up? And they like, Keke? I'm like, no, you can come in. Y'all can come in.
Come on in.
You can hang out. And so eventually people, you know, then want to get involved. So in the last like 6 or 7 weeks, we've developed this ragtag, super dope and dedicated core group of volunteers that we sort of stagger on different days. And really, this idea of being mother-led emphasis, it's the mamas who are showing up. It's the mamas who are like, my child has been in this house for a week. I'm tired of this homeschooling shit. Like, can I bring him to the farm?
Put that nigga in the dirt.
Right, and get this little knacker in the dirt and teach him how to do fractions by have him helping you collect eggs in the chicken coop. Right? Yes. And so that's what we've been doing. You know, we've been teaching kids how to raise, how to build raised beds, and it's really been a very fabulous thing. Even Sis Do You, we're gonna pivot to a digital a digital platform. So we'll be doing these meetings like through Zoom. We'll be having digital dinner parties. And, because we can't do it in person, what we'll do is give everybody dinner money. So if you participate, Sis hits $25. So tomorrow you can buy yourself a nice meal, know? Yeah. And so we really understand that in order to get people to be invested for long-term change, you've got to meet their short-term needs. And I think a lot of times organizers lose sight of that.
That's so important. What a beautiful, beacon of joy in such a special place like the Bronx, but like this abundant, fertile place of giving life, giving sustenance, giving healing. It's such a beautiful thing that you've created. What, for anyone who's watching, how can we help? Like you said, you're volunteers, you got your wait list going on. How can we help you be greater beyond coming to the farm, trying to not social distance? How can we help you?
I would love if people could amplify, if they believe in what it is that we are doing, if they want to help us move this forward, amplifying the work that we're doing in a real way. I know a lot of times people will just click share and then go on to the next thing. We know that Facebook is raggedy. Facebook is rackety with their algorithms. And we know that there are certain words and certain things that will get buried. And so we got to learn the hacks. So if you're going to amplify us on a platform like Facebook, when you share it, make sure that you put a caption. Things that have captions will have a likelier chance of ending up in the news feeds of the folks who follow you and who you're friends with. I mean, I know it sounds dramatic, but text folks. Be like, girl, I heard about this chick, Tanya. Yes, y'all be all in my lives like, yes, Mama Tanya, give me life. And then y'all won't even text y'all friends about me. I'm offended, right? Like, send an email. Join our mailing list on our website. And then finally, I know money is always tight out here in these Corona streets, but if you got it and you want to share it, we are currently raising $300,000 through our GoFundMe. We are at about 127, I think, $127,000. We are getting ready to launch a 1-month campaign, like sort of a lightning round, to raise $50,000, because the food box has grown exponentially in just a month, that we really do need a storefront space. I got my old apartment. It's got like 4 refrigerators in it, and it's still not enough space. We need like a commercial space. We need like stainless steel countertops. We need a workspace.
Yes.
And so we are now on the hunt for a storefront space. And so we want to use the month of July to raise $50,000 to get that storefront space. So if you want to be feeding, Black women-led and mage-led families, then we are an organization that's doing that, and we would appreciate any donations that folks feel inclined to give.
Yes. So please, on the Facebook situation, if you could, like, after this, share all of your links to your Venmo and any way that anyone can pass you some coins. Because one thing that someone keeps reminding me is that everyone is not struggling right now financially. And so she was like, some people are gainfully employed right now. Some people, everybody ain't on the broke artist thing. So, people got money, and this is a great way for people to actually put, like you said, put money in the hands of an organization actually doing the work without trying to put people through all these hoops and jumps and tricks and all these things to make it happen. So I love the work that you're doing. Can you tell just folks, like, what's in that Corona food box?
Oh, yes. Our box is lit. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like, this is not your church's pantry box, okay? Like, we really get it in. I'm a foodie at heart, and I believe in concierge service, okay? I was just telling a reporter today that when you come to the farm and folks come, because we don't let everybody in the farm at one time because coronavirus. So people will stand outside the farm. We put out chairs. I have snacks out. I have a beautiful wicker basket that I walk around with on my June Cleaver, B. Smith, Martha Stewart. Hi, would you like some snacks? We put, I run Mama Tiny's Kitchen, which is an online lifestyle and food, genre content creation thingy. And I make things. So like, I will take our farm fresh strawberries and berries and make jam. And so like last week, everybody got jam. Everybody got pesto from farm fresh basil. We have cereal, we have yogurt, we give lean protein like halal chicken thighs and jumbo chicken legs, like chicken quarters. We do grains, so we do rice, we do quinoa, we do beans, we do healthy fats like butter and olive oil and coconut oil. We do canned coconut milk. What else? Am I missing anything else? We collard greens. Miss Linda just put up her collard greens that she got from us the other day. Alex, I'm gonna make sure I get you some collard greens, boo.
Yeah.
So we do collard greens. We do rainbow Swiss chard. We do mince. We do beets. We do carrots. And all those things are grown locally. We are sourcing from Grow NYC's teaching farm that's on Governor's Island. And so they give us about 300 pounds of produce every 2 weeks, so about 600 pounds a month. And then we put in those added value foods that I talked to you about. So the boxes are amazing. We have an equitable model. We ask for those who are interested. And like you said, everybody's not starving out here in these streets. If you can afford to pay for a box, and like for us, it's not a pantry. It's not like, oh, you come get a box if you're in need, right? We certainly want those who are in need to get a box. But again, we feel like food is a human right? And so if you want to come get a box from us and you happen to be a young professional and you can afford a $60 box, pay for the $60 box, because what that does is subsidize a box for a family that cannot pay. And then we tailor the boxes to your family size, right? So we've had people show up and I've asked, you know, folks, well, what's your family size? And all like quietly, someone was like 8. I was like, what? 8? Okay, great. And then I tell my volunteers we need to fix a box for 8 people. We had one woman that came 2 weeks ago. She was telling me in Spanish, oh, there's a lot of people in my house. I said, okay, well, how many is a lot of people? And very sheepishly, she said 10. We fixed her box for 10 folks.
Yes.
She gave us $5 and we gave her a box of food for 10 people. Like, that's the type of time we on. You know what I'm saying?
I know that's right. That is a lit box. And that's not and you know, I love the concierge nature of it, and like what we hear a lot of times around like the shame around food pantries, right. And like these, you know, standing in line for, you know, it just is so much dignity and joy in what you're creating. I just love that. And I know you said so right now it's how can someone get them a box?
They can go to our website, which I'm also putting in the comments right now. And right at the top menu, it says Corona Relief Box. And then folks can go and click on that and they can reserve a box. Okay.
So for anyone who's not watching right now, it is
blackfeministproject.org. Yes. Boom.
blackfeministproject.org for anyone who's not who's watching, listening to this later. And you can get your hands on a box. She also has posted her GoFundMe information, so you can slide her some coins for this beautiful cause to feed these mamas and these families.
Slide some coins to me.
Exactly. Slide them on over. And you know, and just like, you know, with protesting and how to help in the greater moment, but like if you don't have the money, you know, you may know someone who may have the money. You may know someone who has access to a storefront space or has access to, you know, some funds or some resources that could help, you know, Tanya with the Black Joy Farm. And so thank you.
Definitely. If there's someone out there that does commercial property, like rental, like you're a broker or you know someone who's a broker who does, like, please hit me up. Because I have no idea how to start in terms of looking for a commercial rental. And of course, my preference is always to patronize Black women and majors. So if you know someone who can help sis get a deal on some commercial property right now, I imagine the rates got to be good during this pandemic.
Hey,
I would love that.
So where would your ideal space be? Just claim it.
Yes, in the Bronx, not far from our farm. So in the Hunts Point, Longwood, West Farms, Melrose, Morrisania area. So like that Community Board 2, Community Board 3, Southeast Bronx area. That would be ideal. But in the immediate area of the farm, which is on Simpson, right off of 163rd Street, which is like the Hunts Point, Longwood area, that's like, so we could walk between the storefront and the farm. That would be dope. And like right now we're trying to work with city bikes to get some city bikes out in front of our farm so people can bike back and forth. Like we trying to do the damn thing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Do you need, you know, vehicle situation, transport, anything, boom, you know, getting
Alex,
around?
Come on now. Stretch me out here because I'm trying to be too humble. All right. Yeah. So I literally just turned in my 2-week rental because I had to take my personal / professional vehicle to the mechanic for 2 weeks because I have fucked sis up using her for work and to transport my children. And so Fatima, who's our operations manager, was saying, girl, it's time to get a separate vehicle. Like you cannot transport lumber, chickens, like really other day I had to go get my babies because I had 20 chickens in that bitch. And wow, no, you never want to do that. Like it was terrible. We got stuck in the mud going out to like some, you know, sundown town up in upstate New York, you know, one of the places where they know how many niggas live in the town and they could tell we wasn't one of them. So we were like, let's get in, let's get out. I broke my back bumper. The brakes were bad. The back seat was broken from putting all this lumber and different things in there. And so we are definitely thinking about trying to get a cargo van or a pickup truck before the end of the year is over.
A good sturdy something.
Yes. And she
To
don't
hit
have
the
to be
corner.
fancy. She don't have to be late model. She just got to be reliable.
Okay. So yes, anyone who's watching, we are going to manifest a storefront situation in the South Bronx area that's going to be walking distance from the Black Joy Farm. We're going to manifest at least one vehicle to transport lumber and produce and chickens and eggs and all the things around the world and make this vision a more majestic reality. So, and anything else you have to offer in terms of, you know, services you like to offer, residential real estate, wizardry, you know, don't be shy about it. You know, hit her up. You know, come through. Come share your blessing.
Come through.
You matter too. All blessings matter right now. Okay.
Yes, all blessings matter. Absolutely.
All blessings matter. So, so thank you to you. Are there any, you know, go-to, you know, products or communities aside from your own for someone maybe looking to start down that food justice journey, or you know, either starting a home garden even?
Yeah. You know, I would say, so we tried to start a little like fire escape garden here in my house with the kids, but because I be working, like I have, you know, like I'm out here on some Kunta Kinte, Toby type shit. My garden did not do so well at home because I was so busy taking care of my garden, you know, my farm, you know, for the organization.
Right.
But I think that's a great place to start. Sometimes people are like, I've got this patch of grass, and I don't think people realize just how intensive gardening and farming can be. If folks are interested, I say start with like a window box. Start there. Get good at that. Grow some San Marzano tomatoes. Grow some basil. Do something simple, right, that you can manage at first. And then from there, just kind of work your way up, right? Part of farming too is not just let me throw some seeds in the dirt. I mean, there's a lot of science to it, right? And so I'm always constantly researching, investigating, you know, books, articles, websites, you know, so see what other folks are doing. You know, a lot of our community gardens need more help. A lot of community gardens are run by older folks, retired folks. It's just them and that space and trying to manage it. And they need folks who can come in and support them, you know, in terms of sweat equity and also in terms of like actual finances. Every community garden ain't the Black Feminist Project. It's not the Black Joy Farm. Like I spend an inordinate amount of time writing grants to support the work that I do. But Auntie Mabel ain't doing that. You know what I'm saying? She gonna take a little $100 from her Social Security and get the things she need, or be asking her grand nieces and nephews to buy stuff for her, or any of that stuff. So you know, support those community gardens and urban agricultural spaces in your own community, and just try not to get ahead of yourself.
Word. That's real. That's real. Start small. With who you can, how you can, with what you got, where you are, being mindful of your living situation. I'm about to get me a little window box in the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
Yep.
Get a snake plant and start from there.
Right.
You know, give me
I got a snake plant too.
Give me some little oregano or something going on in the thing. So yes, thank you. You have just given me so much to think about. I want to get my green situation to make my sanctuary feel like home for real. So. Thank you to you and the work that you're doing. I'll share your information as well in the show notes for tomorrow on the alexanderhardy.com and the colorboard.com and on the social media. Let folks know what your social media situation handles are that you want, you know, people want to find more about you.
Yes, all my business is out here in these internet streets. And so I'm on Instagram and I'm there pretty frequently. It's tdfields, and I'll put this in the comments. I am on, of course, Facebook, Tanya Denise Fields. I'm on Twitter. Me and Twitter, I'm trying, but it's hard for me with Twitter. Twitter feels like walking into a room full of people and yelling at them and trying to see who's going to yell back.
Yeah.
Or who's going to re-yell what you just yelled, but then also add their own shit. And maybe sometimes that's going to include cussing you out. So Twitter is hard for me to navigate Twitter, but I am there. So people can find me there as well. Under a handle that, you know, doesn't necessarily fit with where I am now, but I don't feel like trying to move to a new handle.
Yeah,
And so I'm going to put all of those links in there. And of course, you can find my organization on all 3 of those platforms as well by its name, the blackfeministproject.org. People can find me under Mama Tanya's Kitchen if they're more interested in the food content and all the juiciness of that. And that's a little less political, but just a little, because the political is personal. And so I will put all of those handles in the comments, but I am easy enough to find on social media.
Bam. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So shout out to Mama Tanya for blessing us with your magic and your wisdom on today.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful night, and I will check in with you and see if I can support you in any way being greater this week.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for coming through. So, yes, again, thank you for watching. Again, this is Mental Health Monday with Alexander Hardy. This will be on the alexanderhardy.com and thecolorboy.com tomorrow with a recap as well. All the information that I shared, the things that brought me joy, my Tanya and the Black Feminist Project information will all be there as well as local resources for community gardening, food justice warriors like yourself, and some other tools for getting started, whether with a home garden or you know, with your farming situation, whether a patch of grass or what have you. I'll also be sharing some other podcasts and media that have brought me joy. The latest from the Black in the Garden podcast, Tea with Queen and Jay, a couple other podcasts that I listen to regularly, and a couple things that are on my Alex Gotta Eat agenda for my new apartment situation. So again, shout out to Stability. I'll also be sharing my my housewarming situation as requested on the socials here shortly. And yeah. Thank you for watching. Again, this is Alexander Hardy. Listen to some Janet Jackson, drink some water, take a nap, give yourself some grace, you know, set good boundaries. Yeah. Holla.